All right, welcome back to the Ed Block Courage Cast. I'm here with our esteemed guest, Hall of Famer, 2006 Arizona Cardinals Courage Award recipient, Kurt Warner. Kurt, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to join us. Talk a little bit about, football and the Ed Block Courage Award. So appreciate you
Well,
taking some
you,
time.
you got it. Good to be on with you. Good to catch up.
Absolutely. And, obviously a very busy man and doing a lot in the media nowadays. And we kind of see your face everywhere. And it's really cool. And before we get into the Courage Award, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about your story, especially coming into the NFL. And, I remember back when I was younger and we heard about Kurt Warner and end up, taking the league by storm and winning the MVP. But, the bagging the groceries and going through the Arena League and all those things. But a little bit more topical, you now have a movie made out of your life. Did any moment when you kind of realize that, you're now a Hall of Famer, you throughout your entire career, do you ever think back and say, man, that my story could be a movie, or was this kind of something that took you by surprise?
I mean, I would say that after the '99 season, I did have a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, your story could be a movie when you won the Super Bowl after the journey that you'd been on." And at the time, you're like, okay. I mean, falling in love with movies like Hoosiers and Rocky and things when you were growing up, kind of the underdog stories. It was obviously cool to hear people say that. But you never really, you're in the midst of all the stuff that's going on that you're like, great, yeah, funny, and then you kind of move on and you don't think about it again until you're starting to get towards the end of your career, and the successes that I had, and even the fact of the first journey, but then kind of being released and benched, and then coming back and having the second chapter of the story in Arizona. I had a lot of people as my career was coming to an end, like, man, I really think this could be something that they could take to the big screen. And, and we started to have a few people that would reach out to us and say those same sort of things. And would we be interested in something like that? So in the early stages, it was just kind of more of a, flippant comment by people that you kind of thought, took and said, oh, that's cool. That people are, seeing it and thinking it, it's kind of in the realm of those other movies. But not until you start having, some deeper conversations, you go, wow, this is something that people think really might happen. And, what an honor. And, how humbling is that to have people that think, your story, on the big screen was one that could inspire people, whatever the field, whatever the dream, to kind of keep chasing and persevere. And so, it was pretty humbling when those things took place. And obviously, to have the movie done, and to hear the comments that we've heard from so many different people, I think that's the most rewarding part of it, is that, most people, think of Kurt's story, it's going to be a football movie, but I don't know if our movie is really a football movie. Football is the backdrop, but it's a love story. It's a story of a family of underdogs and overcoming and, not listening to, what everybody else said, or not allowing your circumstances to define you, and continuing to chase and believe in yourself and chase the dreams that you have for yourself. And so, I'm really proud of the movie and the way that it shared my story, but more importantly, the way that it shared my family story, whether that was, the parts of Brenda's story that was shared, my son, Zach, who was an underdog in his own right. And then how our three lives, interconnected, to help us to accomplish and be where we're at today. And so very, very proud of the movie, but very humbling, to know that, there's a lot of great athletes, there's a lot of great people in the world, and very few of them have movies made about their lives. And so it's very humbling to know that that was done with our family, and we really hope that it has a long-lasting impact on people's lives.
And it doesn't hurt when you get an on-screen superhero get to play you as well, right?
Yeah, never hurts when you can, tell your kids that They needed a superhero to play you in a movie is always a good thing.
There you go. And you alluded to it. And looking back at 2006, I know we're going back a couple of decades now, but looking back at that 2006 season when you did win the Ed Black Courage Award and kind of everything that you kind of went through there, where you were before you got to
Yeah,
Arizona, and then kind of leading that franchise back to relevance, making it to the Super Bowl, and one of the best Super Bowls we ever seen. Obviously on the wrong end, but it was just an amazing show to watch. But can you just look back and you just kind of think about what it meant to you when those guys in the locker room selected you for the Black
yeah,
Courage Award, and knowing what this award means of overcoming perseverance, being a great role
yeah.
model?
I mean, it's obviously anything when you're voted on by your teammates, it's always special. Voted on, amongst your peers in any way, it's a special award. And then, I think what's cool for someone like me is that as much as our sport is about physicality and it's about toughness and it's about courage and all of those things, the quarterback position is one of those that you may not see in that realm very often. Just because that's the prima donna back there that just stands back and doesn't get hit and throws the football, and so I think that was one thing that was cool for me in having my teammates vote me in for this award is that you know of all the things I wanted to be recognized as a tough player, the guy that would battle through things, would have the courage to stand in the pocket, have the ability when they're banged up to get out on the field and battle for their teammates. And so I think so many of those things encompass what the Ed Block Courage Award is all about. And so that to me was kind of a special moment for me of kind of my teammates saying we recognize what you bring to the table from that perseverance and that courage and that toughness that so much defines what our sport is all about, but oftentimes, doesn't get recognized in our position.
Yeah, and well, I have to ask everybody, well, where do you have the trophy right now? Obviously, one of the most unique trophies in the entire world. The helmet is kind of
Yeah.
synonymous with the foundation. Where is it at? Is it on the mantle next to the MVPs, or is it in a special place?
No, it is. My wife has kind of decorated my office. I'm not one for putting a lot of my awards up around me, but when we moved into this new house and got kind of a nice office, my wife said, "Okay, this is the place where we could display some of those things. Whether Walter Payton Man of the Year award or the Courage Award, MVPs, Super Bowls, rings, those kinds of things." And so I've got an office downstairs that's kind of decorated with with those bigger honors and awards that I was able to receive throughout my career. And so it's kind of up there on display with all of those.
And we talk about the Black Courage Award, and it's not just about do what you're doing on the field. It's also about things that you do off the field and being able to give back. You've done it your entire career. You're working on it now with the Treasure House Project. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there and how you're
Yeah.
supporting younger people in getting their lives on track.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the idea of courage and, really what that means. And, the idea of facing life with courage, no matter what those challenges may be, in our sport, maybe overcoming an injury. It may just be, the toughness of playing our sport. It may be the perseverance, like my journey of, having to go the long route to get there. But, for example, we just, every year with my other foundation, the First Things First Foundation, we spend a week in Disney World with families, Make a Wish, Dream Factory families that have children that are fighting for their lives. And, they are a representative of courage every single day. The way that they chase after life, the way that they don't allow anything to slow them down or stop them from what they want to achieve. It's an inspiration. And so that was just 2 weeks ago for us. And so, I leave there inspired by all these young kids. I mean, everywhere from 5 to 12 years old that are fighting some amazing battles. And I think you see that around all of our communities, that there are so many people that find themselves in tougher situations, that are showing that courage and that are fighting. And I think my wife and I said early on, if we ever made it, we, for so long, were the ones that needed some help to kind of fight our battles. And now we're in a position to help others fight theirs in different ways, whether that's encouragement, whether that's financial, whether that's, doing the things like we did a couple weeks ago. And so it's always been important to us, to be able to recognize those things, take our eyes off ourselves and help other people. And, which leads into our other foundation that you mentioned, Treasure House. And so, you can look at the movie. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage people to go see it. And, I've got a son, my oldest son, Zach, suffered a traumatic brain injury when he was 4 months old. And so I have watched him, face the challenges of life every single day of his life, from the smallest things, because he's legally blind, to, tripping and falling and having to get up and keep moving, to the struggles in school, to, the struggles with independence, and, just his ability to not allow anybody to tell him no, and to not allow anybody to tell him that he can't do something, and his perseverance and courage to kind of face those different challenges in life is really what the inspiration was for Treasure House, which is a community living facility for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so, individuals like Zach, families like ours that have a child that, struggles with full independence, but also, lives a high quality life and has all kinds of gifts and talents to share with the world around them. We've created a place where they can call home, a place where they can have community, a place where they can challenge and chase their dreams, out in the work field and in the community, and connecting with people. And so, you talk about this idea of courage, and I think so much of my life and my journey and the things that we're doing now surround that idea of finding and recognizing and pinpointing those that are persevering, and showing the courage to face tough situations and battle through them. And our foundations are trying to impact people through that in a couple different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I get the privilege to talk to a lot of the past recipients, and just hearing the amount of work that everybody's trying to do post career to kind of make an impact is kind of what we are all about. It's,
Yeah,
we are a community. We are kind of like our own little fraternity with the collection of players that have won our award. And it's always the guys that understand and get it. And that's what's really cool about working here, is
yeah,
not
for
only
sure.
do we get to have these NFL stars, but like you said, working with the children, we're being able to kind of shed some light on some dark times for those kids is always important for
Yeah,
us. Just, it gets me every year. I've been doing this for 10 years now. And every year when we do our little outreach at St. Vincent'sville here in Baltimore with all the recipients, every year I got to walk out of the room. I'm in tears hearing their stories.
yeah, for
So
sure.
it's I truly appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate, you still giving back. And it's an amazing causes that you are working with. And we are very proud to have you as part of our little community here at the Black Courage Award Foundation.
Well,
Uh,
thank you.
Looking at just kind of what's going on with you now, and obviously in the TV world and the radio world, and just kind of working in media, what have been some of the challenges that you have gone through now that maybe you didn't even expect when your playing career ended and this kind of first started up?
Yeah, I mean, I would first say, what a blessing it is that, when you're chasing after the dream of playing in the NFL, you never really think beyond the NFL. You're thinking about, okay, I got focus and I got to get there, and I want to have a successful career. But you don't spend a whole lot of time, or at least I would say players in my generation and probably before, never really spent a lot of time thinking about what's after. I think that's the beautiful thing about where society is now, and social media, and the opportunities and platforms that are out now, is you see a lot of current players that are taking advantage of those and kind of building their brand for when football is over. But for a guy in my generation, we really didn't have that and didn't think about that very much. And so the first challenge when you retire is like, oh my gosh, am I good at anything else? Can I do anything else? What, because that's the other thing about football or sports, is that it's finite. Like, it's not like being a singer where you can sing until you're 80. football comes to an end about halfway through your life, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got half my life left. What am I going to do, now? And so that was kind of the first challenge, was, being able to recognize that, and, the willingness to step into something new and understand that I may not be good at it right away. Like, it's going to take time. I spent my whole life, preparing to play football. And, although I'm really good at it, it wasn't easy. I didn't just, fall outside one day and become great at football. It took a lot of work. And the next phase may take a lot of work as well. But I think that's a hard thing for a lot of players to, to grab a hold of, because they are so used to being successful and to getting the accolades and having people pat them on the back, because they're really good at what they do. That's the first challenge, is going through those growing pains and understanding you might not be good. And it's going to take time to get good at something, and being okay with that, and being able to balance that versus, like I said, what you had when you were playing. That's not always easy. It can be overwhelming for a lot of players that are used to that adulation. And then you may not get it in the beginning stages. But to recognize that, this game has given me, so much beyond the playing field, and that, I've been out of the game, covering it in media now longer than I actually played. And so I consider myself very blessed in that regard, that this game has given me as much as it's given me. But it's the new challenge of trying to be the best at what you do. I spent my whole life trying to be the best quarterback in the business, and chasing after that. And now that's the new quest, is trying to figure out this new field, and trying to figure out, with all the different things, as you mentioned, I'm doing studio shows, I'm doing radio, I'm doing television games, I'm doing all these different things, trying to get really good at all of them, and be one of the best in the business in all of those different factors is a great new challenge for me. And I'm learning stuff all the time, and I'm trying to challenge myself in new ways, and I'm trying to separate myself from everybody else with certain things that I do. And I think that's the cool thing, is because as players, we're used to that challenge, and we're used to that grind, and we understand the idea of working for what we want. And so, that's the phase that I'm in right now, is putting in the work and figuring out those nuances and figuring out who I am and what I'm good at. I may not be exactly like somebody else doing my job, so I can't always just, chase out, I got to do this better and this better like someone else. I'm trying to figure out what my niche is and where I can separate myself. And so, those are some of the challenges that I'm dealing with now, but they're good challenges and they're fun challenges. And, along the way, I feel like I've done a really good job, at the different things that I do, but always looking, to get feedback. And that may be another challenge too. When you're playing, yeah, it's pretty easy to get feedback,
Yes.
right? It's pretty easy to have people tell you whether you're really good or if you're really bad. It's recognized very quickly. On Sports Center a couple hours after the game, somebody telling you you're not any good. And somebody's writing an article, and your coaches have no problem coming and telling you, hey, you weren't very good, or this is a terrible play. That's one of the harder things in this next phase, is to find people that truly understand it and that are willing to give you the kind of feedback that you're used to. Yeah, I think sometimes people are afraid to give too much feedback because they're afraid, well, what's that going to do? Is this person going to go into a shell, or are they going to quit? Are they going to be mad at me? We're used to having people tell us, when we're not doing something very well. And we look forward to constructive criticism and being coachable. And that's been one of the challenges in the next phase, is finding a team of people that are willing to give me that constructive criticism so I can get better, so I can grow in the areas that I want to grow. And so, again, those are a few of the challenges that I'm facing right now, but I'm enjoying every minute of it. I love the game. I'm passionate about the game, and I feel so fortunate that I can continue to stay in the game, doing all the different things that I'm doing.
All right. And now, talking about challenges, I got a little bit of a challenge for you right now. I got some questions from some of the kids at the Courage House, and they gave me a couple of hard ones. So I kind of picked through to try to throw some out to the players when we do these interviews. First one for you. looking back in your career, what stadium, what game, what place
Mm,
did you enjoy playing the most outside of the home stadiums, outside of St. Louis,
yeah,
outside of Arizona, even New York?
yeah.
What games were you kind of like circling to say, oh man, I can't wait till I go to that stadium, go play against those fans?
Um, I mean, there's so many great places to play in the NFL. There's so many great fan bases that it's hard to narrow it down. But I think as a competitor, you like playing teams in your division. So when I was playing, with the Rams, the Saints were in our division, and I always thought the Superdome was a tough place to play. We would go down there; both teams were good. Place was rocking. There were times they put huge speakers on the sideline and pump in noise. And so it was a really hostile environment. And I enjoyed playing in those kind of environments. And so knowing you're going to play against a good team and knowing you're going to have to fight the fans and the away stadium effects, that was always fun to me. Philly was another one. A lot of people talk about the Philly fans and, what they're like. I mean, I remember I did the Campbell Soup commercial one year, and I remember, people, with cans of soup in the stands and yelling things about the commercials. But again, Philly was really good when, in my era. And so playing against them, I knew it was going to be a battle. I knew you were going to have the fans, and the ability to kind of win the fans over with that toughness and with that courage and with your play, knowing what you were stepping into, kind of stepping into the lion's den, so to speak, or the eagle's nest, so to speak. You knew it was going to be raucous, and and to earn the respect of those fans, I think was always really really fun and a great challenge. And so those were a couple places. Kansas City Stadium, Arrowhead at the time, was just a great stadium to play in. Seattle's new stadium, where you would have to go up against the one end, where it was almost just like a wall of
Uh-huh.
people that the closer you got to it, you couldn't hear anything. That's the kind of stuff that you remember, and you remember how fun that was, and what kind of challenge that was to go into those stadiums and beat a good team, while having to battle the fans as well.
Well, you're talking to a Philly fan, so we definitely appreciate that moniker and being a little tough. So absolutely, I definitely get it. I've been to plenty of games, and I'm starting to get my son involved, and he's into the
Yeah.
games too. So we definitely see it. All right, now looking at personally, like, is there a player that you played against that you're that guy's coming up week 7? You're excited about it. You're circling the calendar. Is there one defender that you kind of went up against that you kind of just look forward to the most?
Um, I think that's a double-edged sword, because there was one team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, um, that I both looked forward to, but I also dreaded at the same time, because I knew they were the best of the best, starting with Warren Sapp to Derek Brooks, to Rondé and John Lynch on the back end. It was just the best defense that I ever played against, and they were solid on every level. And you knew that if you beat them or if you had success against them, you were doing something right. And you also knew that if you were just a little bit off, they were going to take advantage of it. But we had some great battles with them, and to me that was the team that I looked forward to and dreaded playing all at the same time. But you wanted to play against the best, and you wanted to prove yourself against the best. And so, I loved playing against those teams, because I knew, they were going to do things. And I can still think back right now to certain plays that, I just go, that was it. You got to cross his, you don't cross his face, it's an interception. If we give away our splits, Rondé is going to know what that split is. He's going to jump the route before you even get there. Like, those are things that, you love the challenge of that. To me, the greatest part about our sport was not the physicality, but it was the chess match. It was out thinking and out seeing and out reacting your opponent. And so, they just presented such a tremendous challenge every time that we played them, that I looked forward to those matchups to really gauge how good we were as an offense based on playing against the best defense that I'd ever seen.
All right, and one more from the kids. Who was your favorite player growing up? Who was the guy that you kind of idolized, throwing the ball around the
Yeah.
yard?
There was two. So I grew up in Iowa, and so if football fans out there, Iowa doesn't have a pro sports team, and don't have a pro football team. And so, being in Iowa, the early morning game, we would get the game closest to us, and so we got the Chicago Bears, in the early morning every single Sunday, and so it was at the time when Walter Payton, Sweetness, was playing, and you couldn't turn on a Bears game and not fall in love with the way that Walter Payton played the position. And then you hear him off the field, and you realize the kind of person that he was and the kind of teammate that he was. But he was one guy, even though I didn't play the running back position, just what he exemplified as a player and as a person, you go, man, if I can grow up to be anything like that as a player and as a man, I'll have one. And so, he was one guy that I really looked up to. And then in the afternoon, we would always get the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. So they would be on
Still,
TV
still to
every
this
single
day.
week
Yeah.
as well. And so at that time, Roger Staubach, I was a huge Cowboys fan because of that, because I got to know all the players and everything because I watched them every week. But Roger Staubach was the quarterback of the team when I was growing up. And so another guy that played the position as well as anybody, had a little different career because he was in the military and didn't really get into the NFL until he was like 27 years old, which I didn't get into the NFL until I was 28 years old. And, but the way that he played, being that he was the quarterback of my favorite team. And then once again, because of the kind of individual that he was, I looked up to him as a player, but then getting to know him as a person, you're like, man, that guy really seems like, salt of the earth, quality people. And so to be able to cheer for two guys that were great, great players, but also great, great people, were the guys that I idolized and kind of looked up to and wanted to emulate my journey after, and fortunate to have met and talked to Roger numerous times. And he did not disappoint. As highly as I held him because I was such a fan growing up, he lived up to the billing in every way. And, so he is a special, special individual. And so I have to say, I did pretty good in picking a couple guys that I wanted to emulate,
Yep.
both on and off the field with those two guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about, full circle career MVP, Walter Payton, Man of the Year. So it's kind of amazing
Yep.
to kind of, look back as a child and realize that you're in the lights of players like that. So that's pretty.
Sure.
All right, I got just a couple things left for you, and I'm going to throw you a tough one. I'm going to throw you one really tough question. You've got to play with a ton of really talented wide receivers. Talk about St. Louis, talk about Arizona.
Yeah.
3rd and 5, got to get a first down. Who's the guy that you are looking at between the Isaac Bruces and Torrey Holt's, Anquan Bolden's, Larry Fitzgerald, down the list? Is there one guy that you can separate and say, that's my guy for 3rd and 5?
Yeah. Well, I like that you gave me a scenario, because the thing that, people ask me all the time, who's the best?
Right.
And you can't answer that because they were all great. I think they're all Hall of Fame wide receivers, but they were all different. And so if you can give me a scenario, I can tell you, who I would pick. And in this particular situation, on a 3rd and 5 situation, I'm going Anquan Bolden. And, might surprise a lot of people. But Anquan was a great competitor. Anquan was as tough as nails. He was strong. And so there was just so many things that you could do with Anquan. Like, I could throw him a pass at the line of scrimmage, and I would expect him to get 5 yards. He'd run you over. He'll make you miss. I could use him in tight spaces because he had such a big, strong body, and his ability to run routes and separate, strong hands that, even if he didn't get open, to be able to place the ball in a certain position, him making a tough catch. And so, not a knock on any one of those other guys. It's just with the physicality and toughness and competitiveness of an Anquan Bolden in a 3rd and 5 situation, a must-have it situation. I'm going to Q.
Former Courage Award recipient himself for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And the people here in Baltimore love hearing that as well, because of his storied career here as well. So that's Really, really cool answer. You always look at Isaac Bruce's and Larry Fitzgerald, but Ian Kwan's that guy that was
Yeah.
the chain mover. So I do appreciate that. All right, you're from Iowa. Obviously, there's one big name athlete out of Iowa right now in sports. Who's better, or who do you think is going to have a better career? And when it all comes down to it, is it Kurt Warner or is it Caitlin Clark?
Man, she is special. I mean, she's much watched TV as well, and so it's cool because I got family still back in Iowa, and so they were able to watch all the games. They went to a number of the games. They saw the hype and the way that Caitlin carries herself, as well as the special player that she is. Man, I don't know the answer to that. Here's what I'll say is that the first thing is she's got to step up on me just because of the nature of how early she's starting her career. And so when it's all said and done in terms of overall numbers and where the two of us stack up, I am going to give her the advantage in that regard. The one thing that may be in my favor is I was able to play in 3 Super Bowls, so play in 3 championship games. And although I only won one, could have very easily won 3. But, I think that's, when it comes to competitors, I think the big part of, playing the game is competing for championships. And so, I was able to do that, 3 times in the NFL, a couple more times in arena football. And so, I think that's the only chance I have, to hold a spot above her would be if by some crazy stretch of the imagination over the next 15 years of what's going to be an unbelievable career for Caitlin, she doesn't get a chance to play in those big games. And we both know that, it's a team sport. So it never is about one individual. You got to have a great team. You got to have great players around you. And so, so it's not just a one-on-one comparison. But that's something that, all of us competitors, we dream of. We dream of playing in those moments and, being recognized as the best at what we do. And so right now, I guess I've got a leg up on her in those regards, maybe MVPs and Super Bowl games. But as I said, she got a long way to go and she's really, really special, that I'll try to hold her off for as long as I possibly can. But, I have a feeling when it's all said and done that she may be able to take the title.
Going to be the epitome of Iowa lure at the end of the
Yes.
career. Yes, yes. All right, last thing for you, and we've started doing this with all our past recipients, and we like to kind of share these messages with some of the kids we work with as well. Just real simple. Take 30 seconds. What does the word courage mean to you?
Courage to me means never letting your circumstances define you. Is that I think it's so easy to look at where we're at right now or to hear what people might say about us in our current situation and allow that to define us, or even allow that sometimes to be the easy way out. Oh, he's working in a grocery store. He's got no chance to make it in the NFL. Oh, he's sitting on the bench for 4 years in college. He's got no chance to make it in the NFL, or even suffering some sort of setback in some way. Oh, after this, I have no chance of resurfacing in Arizona and ever having success again. And so I think it's easy for us to look at our surroundings and let that be the defining factor for us. I believe people with courage look at their surroundings and laugh and go, this might be where I'm at right now, but I'm not staying here. This is not where I'm going to end this journey. And so, they look at those challenges and look at those struggles and they laugh and say, I'm finding my way through this, around this, I'm going over this, but this will not be the defining factor for me. And I believe that's what courage looks like. It's when you're facing something that looks difficult, but you don't look at it and say that. You look at it and say, this is just the next obstacle in the way to where I know I'm going, where the mountaintop, where the peak of the mountain is. I'm going to find my way there. This is just another challenge in doing that. And that to me is what courage means. It's just, we have that saying in our family is we're never going to let our circumstances define us. We are going to believe in who we are and what talents we have. And even where we don't have it, we're going to find a way to be successful in spite of what our circumstances might stay right now.
That's amazing, and love sharing those messages, especially something like that where, a lot of the kids that we work with are going through a really tough time and really tough circumstances. So we'll definitely share the word with some of those children as well. All right, wrapping up. Where can we find all the information about all the things you're doing in the community, how people can get involved, can help you out in any way, just to make sure that they're supporting your causes and what you're doing
Yeah.
to help people around the country?
Yeah, let's start with our foundations. Just treasurehouse.org is where you can find all the information. If you want to join hands with us in, doing what we're doing, we're hoping to build treasure houses across the country and across the world to impact every family that has a child with disabilities in some way, shape, or form. The other things that we're doing with our other foundation, the First Things First Foundation, you can go to kurtwarner.org and find out some of those things like our Make-A-Wish trip and some of the things that we're doing there. And then to find me from a football standpoint, I'll be on the NFL Network again this year. I'll be calling Monday night games on radio for Westwood One. I'll be doing a number of TV games throughout the year as well. Not every week, but doing different things. You can follow me on social media at Kurt13Warner. You can go to qbconfidential.com, which is a website that I've created for coaches and players and fans that want to learn more about the position. So I'm pretty easy to find because I'm all over the place, and I'm pretty active in on a lot of different platforms. But those are a few of the ways that you can kind of keep tabs on where I'm at and what I'm doing, and would love to have people follow me from a football perspective. Even more importantly, follow me from a foundation or charitable standpoint, and see if there's ways that we can connect and find ways to make life better for the certain individuals that we're trying to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping up that legacy. MVP on the field, MVP off the field, obviously. Kurt Warner, 2006 Arizona Cardinals recipient, and one of my favorites. Certainly appreciate you taking a couple minutes, and looking forward to everything you got going on, and just seeing where you go from here, and looking forward to football season and seeing your face on TV. So appreciate it. Thank you for taking a couple minutes, and looking forward to hopefully talking to you in the future.
Well, sounds good. I look forward to it. I appreciate you having me on, and I love what you're doing about inspiring people and spreading a great message.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt. There it is.
You got it.
Kurt Warner. Appreciate it.